What up? What up? Welcome to the Crown and Stitch podcast. Here to talk about some fitted, some snapbacks. Got myself, Nick Ingval, and my guy Keith. We've got a special guest today, Jon Ratner, who you might know from the podcast Sneaker Dads. Also a big fitted guy, longtime sneakerhead, been a part of the community. He's been on with me multiple times on various things that we've done, sneaker convos a couple of years ago. I guess it seems like it was much more recent, but welcome to the show, Jon. Keith, how you doing? How you guys doing?
Doing well, man. Super excited for today's episode. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Me too. Appreciate you guys having me on. Talk with you guys a lot, so it's cool to do it on here.
Yeah, make it a little more official. I think we've crossed paths and talked. I don't even remember the first time we talked, but you and I had phone calls.
Yep.
6, 7, 8 years ago now, probably. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, I was in a different career then. And, we've got a lot of places since then, and here we are. So it's cool that you guys are doing this. I'm an avid listener and produce some podcast content on my own. So it's cool.
Yeah, man, it's great to have you. So we start out usually by talking about what we picked up recently. So you got anything that you want to share with us?
Sure. I have a few things. I have to say some of them might be a little bit older. Being in Canada, I'm from Toronto. We have a little bit of problem. Some places don't actually ship here. And I know you guys don't want to hear me complaining. But the other thing is like shipping and duties cost. So what I do is I have a U.S. post office box and I get about, I shouldn't say, but usually wait till I get about 15, 20. And then I bring them all in together. So some of these are a little older, except for this one. This one just came in recently from that Lids Hat Drop collection. I actually just grabbed the other one. I watched that show so long ago. The one with the different materials. It's what is that? I wish I knew. So
is it the Omar one?
The Omar, thank you. Yeah, with the rainbow. I haven't got it in yet, but I thought that one. I hesitated, but they were sitting, so I went for that one, and I think I'm going to like that one more than this script. This one I got in a trade.
Oh, nice.
So I started trading hats now. There's some forums and things like that. So started doing that because I definitely have enough to spare. This one I want to say toppers, but I forget. I'm not that guy who knows where he gets stuff minor league. I'm the guy who forgets because there's way too much.
I'm right there with you, man.
4 UCabs. I know I've been spending a lot of money with them. So this was, forget the hook, but a nice one.
You don't usually see that Philly script over the top of the side patch, too. That's kind of unique.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I guess it's a pinwheel. You also don't see too many pinwheels. Yeah. We did a pinwheel I'll talk about later, but don't have too many Astros hats, but I had to get my first prototype, and my friend Diggy's Caps went to Buffalo. He lives in St. Catharines, pretty close by. So he does sort of border runs for us to Buffalo at the New Era store. He hooked up a lot of people, so I have to thank him. My first Bisons. And that New Era store in Buffalo is doing I know a lot of people are doing them, but that's the closest place to me to get a Bison. So those are just a few of my recent ones.
Yeah, those some good ones. It's funny. We were talking on the last show. It's so hard to know what's going to sell out and what's not. Like I feel like I am on the opposite wave of everyone. Where I'm like, oh, that's going to be gone quick, and it sits, and then I'm like, oh, that'll sit. I'll get it tomorrow or the next day. How many of the hats that you're picking up do you think are, or what percentage I should say, are like after the release date? Because like you say, you got a lot of workarounds to get the stuff to begin with. So I can only imagine, it's probably it probably pushes you away from like buying everything right on release date too, because you're like, okay, well. Do I, when am I going to get this? Am I going to be patient enough for it to, get to the box and then go pick it up and those kind of things? Because it's got to be probably a higher priority for you for picking stuff up too.
I mean, it's nice because I can wait and kind of it all comes together. It's like Christmas, it's like a big unboxing, but I don't have to pick it up, luckily. So they ship it. It's actually
Oh, nice.
all the way in New Hampshire. So it's just a reshipping service. But,
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll talk about this later, but that sort of hunt has totally replaced sneakers for me. I still buy sneakers. I don't go for new releases of sneakers unless it's something really good. I don't even enter raffles. I just don't need them. I just don't want any more sneakers. I'll pick up something. Oh, there's I picked up an ACG shoe, but it was sitting. It wasn't. But with hats, I'm on top of some of these releases.
Okay.
People will do the countdown clocks, and
Yep.
you see it in the stories. That helps me a lot. And yeah, I'm there a lot of the time, just like it used to be with sneakers, and it still is for a lot of people with sneakers. But I also, get the itch, let's say, and then go on a site and look for things. But you asked about things that people are going for and things that other people aren't. I'm starting, I'm kind of trying to figure this hat thing out like I thought I did with sneakers a little more as I get deeper and deeper. And I feel like it's a lot of the store based. We talk a lot about Hat Club and things selling out a Hat Club. I think Hat Club's a different animal because it's so big, but I think at least with some of the smaller shops that are maybe getting one or two size runs, like, I mentioned like For You Caps or some of the New York based ones, I feel like it's anything a store drops sometimes people are after. And some of these hats are just not that nice and they're gone. And it's kind of like, wow, that sold out. And then I can get this really kind of like clean, classic, like a green or gray under with like, a dope combo up top and kind of like a timeless hat that's really nice that anyone would want any day. And maybe they're produced in higher numbers. Again, I haven't figured it out, but part of me thinks it's the stores too, and people sleep on other stores. But I think that's those days are numbered of sleeper stores.
Yeah, I mean, and it is interesting because like it's almost like you haven't reached. It's very similar to sneakers. It's like some of the stores haven't quite reached the global audience, right? Like, it used to be that you could kind of follow a local or semi-local shop, or even, something that was semi-local in another area and get access to those shoes, still even after a release date. But now like the exposure level for sneakers is like everybody has a list of these are all the places it's coming out at. And with hats, to me at least, it seems like there's a lot of those like nuanced kind of like you said, New York has a lot of places that they get a good little run of colors or themes or whatever they're going to release. And like maybe not as many people know about it, but it does feel like those days are kind of dwindling.
Yeah. And, I think whether it's a collab or just kind of like a themed pack, I think maybe those ones they're doing smaller numbers. Maybe they're a little bit more risky if you're doing like, like a Simpsons thing and maybe it's already been done, or you're doing some really loud colors. You probably just more experiment with that in terms of numbers. Again, I'm still a rookie in terms of learning how the industry works, but I do feel like, it's certainly getting harder. And it's kind of like, oh, did you hear about this shop? And it's like 2 weeks later, they're selling out. In my group chat today, people were kind of saying, yeah, I don't really like how this shop does it. It's like I said, well, what can we do? What would you like? What would you, not personally, like I was playing devil's advocate, and it's like, I don't know what I would do. I just want the hat. It's the same thing with sneakers, right? No one has any answers. It's like you're doing a raffle, you're doing first come, first serve. It's like no one's ever happy, right? Unless they get the hat or shoes.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
It's kind of funny how you mentioned too about like, hats overtaking sneakers, because the same thing happened to me too. It's like I used to be ready for every drop, entering a whole bunch of raffles and whatnot. And, I was like, well, hats are cheaper. I can buy a hat for $50, $60, but I don't know if the justification is there or not, but I'll pick up 5 or 6 hats in between every sneaker that I buy. So it doesn't really make too big a difference, financially. I'm still spending the same amount of money. It's just, especially after, like I said, starting doing this podcast, it's just like the focus has just kind of shifted.
There's so many hats too. I don't know about a dry spell and shutdowns of factories. I mean, we had a little experience with that. You hear about that, but it's certainly, I can't keep track of the hats. Sneakers, I felt like I always could, even before the pandemic when things slowed down. Well, actually, I don't think they slowed down in sneakers with shipping. I think things maybe got delayed, but you know, the amount of hats that come out, if you just look every night on some of these aggregators, it's unbelievable, and it's very hard to keep it at that level. That even at the worst I ever was with sneakers, I'm a little better at hats now because I have no space. Literally, I'm tapped out. Like, I'm not just saying that. I know everyone always says that. I would have to get another one of those Amazon racks, and like my family would just like, you're filling up another one of those. So I mean, I only have 1.5 or 1.75. But I digress. But yeah, it's hard to keep it under that sneaker budget if there ever was one.
Yep, totally. So I gotta ask, what are you wearing? Like, you're obviously from Toronto. You got a Blue Jays hat on.
Yeah, this is the Blinky, I think it's called, with the pink under visor. Lids pick up, nothing crazy. I got a few from this. Actually, they were dropped online, I think, on Lids. You guys probably saw months ago. One of those weird scenarios where something dropped online and then 3 months later it's in store. I picked up the Expos version, which I think is nicer.
Nice.
It's the best one of these. And then I just grabbed the LA. It's kind of like going to Lids, use my discount, couldn't resist it. So one of my favorite collections of, I guess it's this year. Don't remember when they dropped online, probably early this year.
Yeah. Well, so I'm just wearing like kind of like my standard Giants hat. This is the Jackie Robinson edition from this year. But I asked too, because we've had the conversation a lot where like Keith is in the Bay as well. I'm in Sacramento. I'm just a diehard Giants fan. Like, baseball is probably, one step above sneakers for me in like terms of like the love and the family and the ties that I have to it. But I typically don't wear any baseball, like major league teams. I don't really wear any of the other teams. I pretty much stick to the Giants. I have a handful of minor league teams, and I've got like, some A's stuff, some local teams. But obviously you've shown a bunch of them, so you're kind of all over the place. Any kind of limits to what you're going to wear versus, favorite teams in that?
I'm embarrassed to say this because on opening day this year, I posted a hat, and I'll be straight up. I'm more about matching. I come down here, I got my sneakers and my hats. Usually pick out a hat I haven't worn yet because I have a bunch that are new, and then find a pair of sneakers to match it. Take the pick or not take the pick. But it's fun. I like it. But on opening day, I grabbed, and the two teams I really don't like to buy hats from are the Yankees and the Red Sox. Long time, a lot of teams hate cities fans hate them, but Toronto is obviously rivals. And I posted a photo in the morning, and someone said, "Do you know who we're playing today on opening day?" And that shows how serious of a baseball fan I am. But so I do have much less than them. Those are the really only ones I care about. I try now to pay attention to the schedule. But what's funny, and I don't know if it has anything to do with hats, I'm going to say it doesn't, but maybe it will credit hats a little bit. My son, 10 years old, never was into baseball. We've been to the occasional game. Now he's a baseball fiend. It's actually probably because of the show on his Nintendo Switch, the video game. Yeah. He is obsessed with baseball. We went today. We had to get a new bat because he dented the old one by hitting, too many. I don't think it was a softball, but anyway, he is out there all day now, wants to play baseball, plays a video game, is into hats. So I don't know what it is, but now I have to know because we're watching the J game at night. And I was always the kind of guy who would flip through and then like, hey, can we watch whatever, honey? Like, we'll flip back. Never really cared. Go to like a couple games, leave early, drink beers. When I was a kid, I jumped on the bandwagon when the Jays were good. We'd go to games. I played baseball. But in my adult life, I've always been just basketball. I don't even watch hockey. So baseball, my son, thanks to him, he's bringing me back into it. And maybe I'll be more careful with the hats, but not too careful.
Hey, that's pretty awesome, man. And honestly, like it's never that serious. I think that, as much as I love baseball, man, it can be such a slow and just boring sport sometimes. So, and it takes a lot of time commitment. It's like, if you want to be a fan of baseball, you've got to watch 160 some odd games. You want to be a fan of basketball, you've got to watch half that, and it's way more exciting. And it usually takes half the time for each game. So I definitely understand that, but that's really cool that you're getting to kind of like reconnect with it, and have him along with you on the journey with the hats too.
I mean, it makes it more fun. It makes it more fun. I mean, I have other things to do. I have a job, I have a podcast, I have a family. So, to sit through a baseball game at night, if we're watching TV and he doesn't want to watch it, or my daughter doesn't want to, I'm not following the game. They're always at night. So, the family sort of dictates if they're willing to turn off Jeopardy and watch a ball game, that's fine with me. We never have until this year. And now we're in it. So it coincides nicely with my other hobby.
Yeah, definitely.
So can your son fit any of your hats? Is there some swapping and borrowing going on in the household?
It's getting dangerous. It's funny. He was this, last year I thought he was a 3/8. Then I started buying him some, and hats fit weird always. And I'm a 3/4, and he put on a couple of. He can now wear 7.5s, and the 3/8 I've given to people or sold. So he's growing like a weed, and I don't know how your head grows, but I know his feet and head are growing because he is 10. He's a big boy. He is 10, and he's wearing my wife's 7.5 men's shoes, almost like her Ultra Boost tight shoes like that. And the other day he put on one of my 5/8 because I used to think I was like the same with sneakers. You think you were a different size, or sometimes I have to buy a 5/8 because I really want something. Put it on. He's like, Dad, I can wear this. And his eyes lit up. It was like he's never really shown that much interest in my sneakers. He's like, kind of like, I'll sell these, Dad. I won't wear them.
Yeah.
But with the hat, his eyes lit up because he does wear a fitted almost every day now because and he has a couple snapbacks, and we joke about that too. But he fit into a 5/8, and I put a little sticky, like I used like the little foam inserts or whatever to make it fit a little better. And he was pretty stoked, and he said, Dad, give me all your 5/8. So I gave him about 4 or 5. Not all of them. Hopefully he doesn't hear this. There's a few I stashed away, stretched. He's not ready yet. He's still 10. I mean, I told him he can mash a hat easier than you can mash a pair of sneakers. Like sneakers, I don't care, but a hat, I mean, he was playing around with it. I was like, look what you just did. You dented it. He's like, I don't care, Dad. I was like, okay, then you're not getting the good ones yet.
Yep. Oh man, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Keith, what are you rocking? What'd you cop recently?
Oh, what I'm wearing is the Cobra Kai from Lids.
Nice.
I forgot exactly when these dropped. This was months back. Much like you, John, I'll wear pretty much almost every team. I don't really have a problem with the Yankees or Red Sox. They're on the East Coast. Not my favorite teams, but I feel like especially like a lot of the Red Sox hats that have came out. I like a lot of them. Like there was that collab that Pierre did with Fan Treasures, the Chowder House one, and just overall, I like a lot of the Red Sox hats. So I'll wear pretty much whatever. Besides, of course, a Dodgers hat. That's not going on my head. What about John? Do you have any Dodger hats?
Yeah, I'll wear Dodgers. Sorry to tell you. The other one I wasn't so into was Houston for obvious reasons, and I've since broken down. As you saw, I have about 2 or 3 Houston hats, and my son called me on that one. He was like, "What happened to your Houston objection?" Like, and I was like, "Oh, they're nice." Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all good. For pickups, this is funny too because I was talking to you about this recently, John. As I wasn't able to get my hands on any of the COVID mass pirates, and I finally was able to get one. This was from Sports World. This is, I think, the Sunset Gradient collection. And one of the things that I like about this hat that I didn't notice at first was instead of a Batterman, it has the Pirates logo on the back. It's kind of getting washed out, but it's like a baby blue brim with this is like a tannish color on the crown. But really happy to finally have one. It's been months and months of striking out, so that definitely felt good to have that in the collection now.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a good one. That colorway is super dope. So going back to your Astros thing, my pickup, most recent pickup, I should have opened this so you don't get this whole, I don't know, maybe the ASMR experience is actually good. I don't know. But I finally picked up a San Jose Giants fitted, which is, like for a Giants fan is like not special in a sense that like you kind of, if you're a fan of baseball, you end up picking teams related to your favorite team or whatever. And so like it's just been on my list for a long time. I had one years and years and years ago, but I wore it to play baseball in, so it just got destroyed, you know. But what's interesting is like the Astros is a great example, the Pirates is a great example, the Tigers. I think like fitteds almost have like the nostalgia is almost harder hitting when it comes to fitteds than it was for sneakers to me, because there are so many like, you know, old Pirates logo, old Angels logos, a lot of the old Phillies stuff. Like there's just you mentioned the Expos. Like I absolutely love the Expos logo. Like I just think it's one of my favorite logos of all time. And I think like the pinwheel back in the day is just like guys like Tim Raines, and you know, you just have these memories. And part of it is because at that age, like baseball cards were a big deal, right? So like I was learning about these people and players and athletes that I had really no business knowing anything about, but like, you know, it's like Keith brought up Tim Salmon on a episode, and it's like that ties into so many memories for me. So it's almost like the nostalgia is like just so much more in my face on top of all the various logos, right? It's like there's layers to each team's logo history. So like you start looking at that stuff and you're like, oh, I really like that, or I really like that patch. Man, it just like hooks me. I can't like, I mean, it's hard for me to not buy things when I see like a good combination. Do you find that same kind of thing, John, with like some of the stuff that you're picking up? Because like the Astros one you shared is one of those ones where like if the Astros weren't, you know, cheating, like I see that and I think of Nolan Ryan. And like Nolan Ryan was like my favorite pitcher as a kid, or one of my favorite pitchers. I got his baseball autograph. Like that's what I asked for. Like years later, my grandparents got it for me, you know? But like, I don't know. Is that the same for you?
It's funny you mentioned Nolan Ryan, because my son and I were playing the show today, and we discovered these all-star type teams. They're not, and they're like greats teams, and we had never played with them. He's only had the game for a few weeks, and we found these teams, and they had all these guys. They had Nolan Ryan, they had Ken Griffey, and he kind of got really excited, but I got so nostalgic. And they also had like a super old time one with Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth and things. But I picked the one with all the guys from my kid and from my childhood. And you know, when I was thinking of when I saw Nolan Ryan, I was like, yeah, I have like that totally connected. Yeah. But the other good thing that the stores do is they tie, you know, when they're storytelling, they'll use like, not always, but they'll use an image of a Mike Schmidt or whatever, and then you're like, okay, now I see it. So you know, maybe we don't need that image, but when it's there, it really helps and like tweaks the nostalgia. But yeah, totally. I mean, someone the other day showed me a hat that was hooked to the Royals, and I said, I used to hate the Royals, but that's a really nice hat. And I have a couple Royals hats. And like when I was a kid, like the Royals were I would never touch a Royals hat. I probably wouldn't have touched any other hat when I was a kid, but different time.
Yeah, totally. It's crazy. So you have some experience in basically making your own hats, right? So why don't you tell us a little bit about your would you say it was still?
Yep. So there's just a few hat stores that are online, all in Toronto and Canada. There's a few outside of Toronto. So we're kind of making the Canadian scene is kind of blowing up, almost, is fair to say, and still is sort of at the forefront of that. And the founder of Still, Shaheen, is a friend of mine from the sneaker world. Of course, he you know, has been in the Toronto sneaker scene for a long time, and that's how I got to know him. And he'd been doing Still for a few years now. And, you know, as my podcast, Sneaker Dads, picked up steam, he was a guest on it. And he knew I was more into fitteds, and the connection between hats and sneakers is obvious. Good friend of mine, Andrew Kahn, Akon from Great Ones. Akon Ones from Great One. He is sort of the design expert of, if he and I are a team, which we are, he's the design expert. He knows all the logos, so I have to credit him. He does all that hard work. I do. I'm sort of an idea guy. Maybe we we sort of asked Shaheen, we said, hey, what do you think of this idea? And, pandemic being what it is, it took a while, but we got really lucky. We wanted to do a combo, great father-son duos hat. We didn't actually think it was going to be time for Father's Day. It was planned way before. But as Father's Day kind of approached, we said, hey, this would be perfect for Father's Day. So we pitched the idea to him. He liked it. Considering what's going on in production of garments and things like this, I think we were really lucky. It went really smoothly. And, he gave us this opportunity, and I can't thank him enough because, I just have a podcast. I have no experience designing any clothes except for I did some fitteds of my own through New Era with my Sneaker Dads logo, but totally different ball game with MLB. So it was a lot of fun. And Andrew again is a credit. I could show them for people who haven't seen them. Still a little bit of a slept on shop for some people. I think the hardcores in the hat world definitely know, but not everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I just found out about it, seeing your posts about it. So
yeah, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of hat shops, as we all know, but still is one definitely not to sleep on. They have releases most weeks, have a lot of done a lot of things that people haven't. They're really early, if not the first, on like peach undervisors. They do a lot of cords. I think might give them credit for helping the cord or starting the cord wave. They do a lot of great work. And basically, a quick story of the design is you come up with sort of a concept. We wanted to have a story. I know not everyone has a story behind a hat, but given the father and son duos, we picked 4 hats. He let us do 4 hats. We were really lucky. And the idea is have a father and a father and a son. I'll start with, we were talking about Griffey earlier. So this is the Griffey. It is obviously a Reds hat with the Seattle Mariners colors. So we got the actually both of them played on the Reds, so this was a little different situation. Both Ken Griffey Jr. Sr., but Junior's colors on Seattle and Dad's team, I guess for the most part, but both of their team. So this is the Griffey.
I love that one.
Yeah, this is Andrew's favorite, and he did his best to coordinate everything from in terms of dates, in terms of side patches and things like that. He said, "John, do you like these side patches?" And he explained it to me why, but he really did all the work with those. And we were really lucky how they turned out. And they also came out a week before Father's Day, which is just luck. Shaheen probably did something to make that happen, but that's beyond that business expertise, beyond my knowledge. This one, Nick, I'm sure, unless you're offended by the Pirates colors, we have the Bonds with the Giants hat and some like OG nods to the undervisor that they actually wore, and side patch, and again legendary father-son duo in baseball. We sort of went digging through all the father-son combinations. There sure is a lot, but to pick the best ones, I think it was kind of relatively easy, especially with those two. And then with the Montreal and Toronto connection of the Guerrero, Vladimir Guerrero Sr. and Jr. I'll show these ones together because they go together. Blue Jay colorway, alternate Blue Jay colorway on the Vlad. I called it the Impaler. No one liked the Impaler name, but if you know, you know. Gray under. And then the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on the Expos pinwheel. This is actually my favorite. Despite the fact that it probably get dirty. Again, I think they turned out really well. The reception was amazing.
You guys did a great job.
Thank you. Yeah. Very excited. Still excited.
I need to start scouring eBay because I'm still mad I missed the drop on that one. So I was at work and I still need to get my hands on that Bonds one right there because they're all beautiful, but of course being a Giants hat, that one definitely speaks to me the most.
It was very hard, and us being our first collab, they're not going to make, it's a little bit of a departure if you look at what he does from what they usually do. So, not going to make thousands of the hat, obviously. So it was a little bit tougher to get than usual. And I only got from myself and my son. I was unable to hook up anyone because, I'm not just saying this, but still, and I know other retailers try to do this. They try and spread the love and hook up the community. You can't always see the same people or give invoices to the same people because people will get upset and they will give up and they'll go somewhere else. So I think they do a really good job, and I know it's really hard. So, yeah, if anyone's wondering why they didn't get one from me, it's because I didn't get enough for me. I wanted doubles and triples of all of them, but
it's tough, like we've talked about that at length on the Sneaker History podcast, and it's, you want to be fair, but you also want to make sure that like the people that have supported you get, a shot at it, right? You want to make sure that like people that worked on it with you get a shot at it. So it's just, yeah, it's such a tough thing, man. It's such a tough thing. And I think like, I know you well enough to know that you want to be able to hook up everybody and make sure that everybody that is interested gets it. But, nobody's going to take it the wrong way. Nobody's going to have hard feelings if they know you, So yeah. I just really like you guys just like absolutely killed it with that whole concept. Super dope that it came out, at that time too, just to perfect for Father's Day. So
it was cool. And one more thing on that, because, one of the reasons why he does it, and I still felt like he was hooking me up like he would on, like a release that's happening next week or whatever, because he was like, there was only a limited amount. But one of the things when I was talking about the group and not, people kind of, oh, is this the right way to do it? One of the things he has to combat is bots. And I know a lot of the stores have to combat the bots, and he sends out invoices and he does like the comments below thing. And that's to weed out bots, because if you're invoicing everyone and picking who essentially, and then I think he leaves a size round or 2 or 3 or whatever, how much he has just for the first come, first serve. It's sort of, if someone, bought 4 hats last week and was begging and you want to hook them, yeah, sure. Or if you did like you buy this hat, you could get an invoice. Like, it's super hard to get that organized. So some people just don't care, right? Some people don't care to fight the bots, like we know in the sneaker world. Some people don't want to invest in Shopify, and again, because they're not the only ones doing it, but it's really because, and it's smart business too, to get people to spread the love. So, I mean, I appreciate it as a customer too, because this was only a hat I worked on so far.
Yep, totally.
John, I know you had mentioned the community that you have up there in Canada. Is there any differences that you notice up in Canada compared to what you see over here in the US, or is there anything you could touch on as far as that? Do you notice any differences? Is it all, I know you said Canada's starting to kind of boom a little bit up there as far as the fitteds and stuff, but is there any differences you see?
Well, I'm sort of engulfed in the US community, so I can see, on like Discord and things like that. So I see what's going on there. I think it's largely the difference is sort of availability. We have fewer lid stores. I mean, I know lids aren't in every city in the US, but we have lots, but what comes in is very limited. We'll get mostly J stuff and a couple of teams we don't. I was in New York recently, and I was in New Orleans, and I went to Chicago. I went to all 3 stops, and kind of sounds like a sneaker trip, but it was more like now a hat trip. Well, it wasn't really, but it turned out to be that. But and I saw the stores, and they were significantly different stock and more selection. And like I said, some stores we can't even get to ship here, like you mentioned. Fan Treasures and Pro Image, I can't even use my credit card and ship to my PO box. But I mean, as far as the culture, I think in places like New York, it's been hardcore heavy for years and years, and I think elsewhere we're following the sort of same trends. Like we all had whatever number of hats in our closet since we were little, whether it was 5 or it was 20 or if it was 100. Few of us had 100 hats, fitted hats when we were young, but I think it's following sort of the same trajectory as the majority of US outside of those long time hat meccas. But we have collectors here, and at least in my group chat, that have been doing it forever, like you guys have talked about, and you discover, oh, okay, this guy's been collecting fitteds for 25 years, and as long as I've been collecting sneakers, and it's cool because I never thought that world existed. I just thought it was only people collected sneakers, but people collect comics and hats, and I don't know, probably socks.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. We were just talking about it in the last episode. It's like you just get, people just get to nerd out, and then you find the people that nerd out on the same things that you nerd out on, and then it's like, okay, new friends, new ideas, new, like, what are we going to do? Like, we're just going to do some cool stuff together. And, you don't even know, right? You just like, you get, I love when people are passionate about stuff enough to, like, get into the nerdiness of like side patches and pins, which we talked about last week. It's like, it's just like it's so in the weeds for the average person that just sees somebody wearing a hat and doesn't think twice about it. But then it's just like sneakers, right? If you see somebody with a lace swap or something like that, that's like, oh, they put that extra effort in to actually be, to be a slightly different, and that they're paying attention to a lot of things when you see just that little thing. It's fun. To me, it's just so fun. I just love all this stuff and love, meeting people like yourself and Keith, and like, just through whatever those shared passions are. And then you end up finding other things that you're into, it's like, I mean, sneakers and fitteds, like, but yeah, it's always a good thing to me. But so we're getting pretty close to wrapping up on time wise. Any other questions you have, Keith, before we get into some kicks and fits?
The only other thing I was thinking about is I know that you had Pierre from Views from the Vault on Sneaker Dad's podcast, and I've seen you on a couple of the IG lives with him and Jason and Leon and whatnot. And I was kind of curious how you got hooked up with them. And it seems like, you said you haven't been collecting for a super long time, but you got pretty engulfed in the whole fitted culture, so really fast too. So I was just kind of curious about how that happened and how you kind of got hooked up with so many people in the hat community in not that long a time.
Yeah, it was actually when he opened that up. That's when I got it. It kind of, I was kind of talking to him, and he's like, I was like, oh, a sneaker guy going into hats, like what a shock, really. Like, it shouldn't have been, right? But as far as those guys, Leon actually lives in Toronto, so I think that might have been the connection there. I might have just jumped on a couple of their lives. Yeah, Pierre was on the podcast. So was Nick, as he mentioned. So if anyone missed those, please go listen to those. And I can't say I remember how I got on it. I must have just jumped on alive, and maybe the Toronto connection got me a little extra love from Leon. Maybe I showed one of his hats. He designs hats, both MLB hats and his own brand, the Capologist. So it was probably a little bit of Toronto love. Jason jabs Toronto. Pierre, being a Boston fan, there's obviously a little bit of a rivalry there, but they're good guys, and they're really, as you guys know, they're super busy and very big on creating content, and so shout out to them because they've embraced us. They gave us a lot of shine on our collab, and even down to like the pins we made. Leon shares them, and they've been really nice. And yeah, I just love jumping on. I jump on other people's lives now. I'm kind of just having fun with it.
Nice, yeah, that's great, man. I gotta say that's always been something that I don't know if it exists outside of Toronto as much, but man, Toronto community wise is so supportive of everyone else in the community. I just I have to tip my cap to you guys. You got it. It happens in sneakers. It happens in fitteds. I would imagine, like I'm big into cars. I would imagine it's the same thing in the car scene up there. It just feels really special to me. And I don't know if it's just because I see so much of the cattiness that exists in sneakers and a little bit in fitteds right now, but in the States at least. But I have to give you guys flowers for that, because it always feels really genuine. Like everybody's just like wants to be doing something cool and wants to support the other people around them that are doing something cool.
Yeah, I'll say sure, but in sneakers, I think we've seen the worst come out in people. I haven't seen anything bad in hats yet. But we're, I think, the fourth biggest city in North America. I mean, we have a very diverse population. People collect, not just Jays hats, but I know people only collect Pirates hats. And it's like, what are you doing living in Toronto? And they just like the design, So there's something for everyone in Toronto. So luckily, you've picked from the right group of friends and acquaintances. But yeah, it's a great town.
Well, let's wrap up, kind of connecting the dots between, I guess, like our two podcasts and your podcast, and we'll do a pair of kicks that you're going to match with a fitted.
All right, you guys want me to go first?
Go for it.
This is stolen from the IG, but I got a lot of compliments, so I'll show off the purple pigeons, I guess is the official nickname, with a still hat. This is the not the grape soda, grape crush, I think it was a little while ago. And yeah, I'm a little bit colorblind, but I think it's close enough. Both purple at least. And yeah, I got a lot of compliments on this one. Still's big into the T-bird to muscle birds. So yeah, this one one of my favorites. So I don't like the bright colors too much, but when the shoes match, it's easy.
Totally. I love that logo, by the way. It's one of my favorites. If I was to wear teams other than the Giants, I would definitely wear one of those.
One of these.
You want to go next, Keith?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. You're making me realize too that I definitely need some more Blue Jays hats in the collection. Since I had a Lids hat on, this is the black color pop from Lids. And like you said, Nick, too, that this was one of the ones that I expected to fly, and I was able to pick that up a couple days after it dropped. So these are a tiny bit beat, but these are, of course, classic Red 11s. Goes good with the black color pop and the red of the Red Sox hat. So that's what I got.
It's a good one. Good one. Yeah. All right. I am going to start with the shoe. So Fila Grand Hill,
nice.
Old school. Fila 96, I guess is what they call it now. But pulled out the New York Giants Polo Grounds. I don't know if you can see that side patch there, but kind of old school. One of the places that when I lived in New York, I had to make sure I stopped by, get to see the little plaque and all that. But just nostalgia again. Nostalgia for me. Just I don't know what it is about fitteds, but man, it's taking me down like all sorts of winding roads back to years past for me. So, but John, thanks for coming on. We've been talking about this for a while. I know Keith and I had been talking about this for a while, but we really appreciate you coming on, and obviously want to kind of let everybody know how to find you and tell them about what you have going on so they can come check you out.
Sure. You guys can check me out on mostly on Sneaker Dad's Instagram page, and the podcast is Sneaker Dads. That's it. There's another podcast with a similar name. I am just Sneaker Dads. Heads Ain't Ready is my personal Instagram, or at least my my shoe and hat Instagram. And yeah, doing it every week still. Almost 2 years in. So check it out if you haven't. Thank you guys for having me on. It was a lot of fun. Glad to make it on, and I love what you guys are doing. So really appreciate you, and keep it up.
Of course. We'll definitely be in touch. We'll get you back on. Maybe you'll have another still collab in the works down the road. Hopefully. Keith, let everybody know how they can find you.
You can find me on IG and Twitter at Keith the Sneak. 2 Ks on the end. Crown and Stitch, of course. IG, Twitter, everything. And yeah, go check out Sneaker Dads. I'm an avid listener. You do a great job, John. And even people that just started listening, go back in the catalog a little bit, because there's a lot of gems. You might even hear Nick on there.
Yeah, not just for dads, also.
Yeah, absolutely agree. There's some great conversations. And props to you for sticking with it, man. I know firsthand how hard it is to keep going week after week, and yeah, I really enjoy the podcast. I'm listening to it regularly. So thank you, everybody, for listening. You can follow me at Nick Engvall on all the platforms. But like Keith said, more importantly, at Crown and Stitch everywhere. And we'll upload this one to our YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, all those things. And we'll put a link to John's stuff in the description for you to connect with him. And please go support him. We appreciate all of you. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.